Hey everybody, you are tuning in to the Canary Cry News Talk live stream pre-stream. Good job for being here just a little bit early. We're going to get the show started in a little over a minute here. And let's see, congratulations to Chili Bean over on YouTube for first comment of the day. Good job, Chili. You win. You win. All right, everybody, we got a good show for you today, but as usual, just reminding you, head on over to CanaryCry.Party. That's CanaryCry.Party, a real functional URL. Go check it out. There's all the links you could ever want to connecting to everything Canary Cry. Of course, you can become a producer right there on the link tree, or you could go explore CanaryCryRadio.com/support. But more importantly, you can join the newsletter, get all of our sources we use all week long delivered directly to your email box, and it's a great way for us to decentralize the resources for the show. So go become a part of the web of truth. Go do that. What else is there? Oh, you can find links to all our social medias, but most importantly, you can connect with CanaryCry.Community, which is our totally off Facebook, fully Canary Cry social media network. It's not what you think. It's not like a Facebook. It's more like a forum, but it's better that way. And if you're a Discord person, we've got our Discord links over there as well. All right, go get connected, CanaryCry.Party. And as usual, stay hydrated, folks. Buckle your seatbelts, because we're about to blast off into the firmament.
The world is getting crazier. People are acting more and more insane. The end of the world is tomorrow. Tomorrow. There's only one thing to do when the world is falling apart. Listen to Basil and Gonz as they discuss this week's news and events through the lens of Bible prophecy.
You are listening to Canary Cry News Talk.
You're listening to Canary Cry News Talk. Today is October 8th, 2021. This is episode 399. And today, reset rumors of wars. And Razzle Dazzle, I'm your best buddy, Basil.
And this is Gonz, your favorite Asian provocateur for Christ. Welcome to the podcast where we bring you the best news, which is the gospel message of Jesus Christ, while reporting the egregious with a well-rounded, biblically grounded take on world events. And welcome to number 399. We're almost there, 400. Right,
it happened so fast. It happened so fast, Gonz. We had so many things to plan for 400, and we just didn't do any of it.
We're horrible people. Is what it is. We're horrible producers of the show.
Well, you know, I saw, I can't remember if it was an email or a comment or something. Somebody mentioned that, you know, yeah, everybody celebrates 400, but really, for us, it makes more sense to make a big celebration out of 444. You know, we've got some other, you know, we're not like those other podcasts that base their success on increments of 100 episodes. Oh, no. Instead, we celebrate every 111 episodes.
But there you go. 111. Every 111, it goes up a number. So we did 333. We'll do 444, 555.
That's right.
I don't like how that's going to happen after 1,000, though, because you're exponentially.
Yeah, we'll figure that out. But, you know, at this rate, that won't happen for another, let's see, 8 years? Something like that, 6 years?
We will be 60 when we do the next 1,000th
1,111. But anywho, there you go. That's what we're telling ourselves to let ourselves off the hook a little bit.
Yeah.
But we might be able to pull something together for 100 anywho. But I like the 333-444 type of thing, because then we can run you know, a knighthood special.
Right.
But yeah.
Okay. Before we get into it, I do want to call the producers up.
Producers, assemble!
We have a note from a producer, longtime producer and friend of the show, producer Sarah. And she says, been listening to the show and getting a lot of value out of what you've been talking about. Thanks for all you do. I was hoping you can pray for a friend of mine, Angela, who has recently been diagnosed with lymphoma. It's been really tough for her and her family. Feel free to share this to producers. Much prayers appreciated. So there you go, producers. Something to start off the show, just so we, are starting with the good vibes, making Angela feel better about the lymphoma. So,
well, yes. Well, there you go. The producers, a notorious team of prayer people from around the world. We assemble the producers every episode, and so far so good, if I do say so myself. So yes, of course, we'll be keeping Angela in our prayers around the world for strength and healing. All right, what do you got to start us off here, Gonzo?
So the theme here of this episode, the title, Reset Rumors of Wars. If you can take a peek at the subtitle, Battle of Sci-Tech, Social, Political, Economic, Militia, Educational, Spiritual. It's all the layers of civilization, and it seems like there's some kind of war waged at every level. And, we've been hearing a lot about World War III for years, a lot of different types of rumors, and is the Middle East going to blow up again? And there's all kinds of tensions everywhere between countries and nations and stuff. But this war is a little bit different, and the way things have played out, especially since COVID. And I thought this was interesting. Candace Owens, of all people, said this on Twitter the other day. She said, looking into what is happening in Australia, and I can now confidently say that World War III is upon us. We are in the midst of a global psychological warfare.
Candace Owens can confidently say that we are in World War III. All right, Candace.
I am well aware of the operation that may be behind the scenes here, but yes, she says she's
tweeting this on her Freedom phone.
We are in the midst of a global psychological warfare. Under the guise of COVID-19, governments worldwide have declared war on their people for full totalitarian control. She sounds like a lot of people that we've, like me, 5-6 years ago.
She sounds like us. I don't know why don't I have a blue check mark?
A blue check mark, 72,000 likes, 20,000 retweets. Yeah, but the message is getting out there, and I'm noticing, just as a sentimental type of thing with the people out there, people are really mad about COVID. Like regular people. I know there's your normie crowd, and that's a whole segment. But there's a whole group of people that in the last few years, we've been talking about, they're waking up. And we've always talked about how there's a control there too. I think QAnon has something to do with that. People waking up, you got to have some kind of psyop to control the minds of the people that are waking up. But the people being angry, I've noticed that a lot, and it'll be kind of thematic here as we go through all the stories. But I wouldn't disagree with Candace Owens in terms of the World War III being some sort of proxy type of war, psychological warfare, but also that's been happening for a while. So it's not, I'm glad she realized it now, but welcome to the party and the war.
Okay. All right, Candace, give me that blue check mark.
Yeah.
Wait a second, Gonzo. Do we have a Friday jingle?
Oh, yes, we do.
It's Friday.
It's Friday.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Okay.
Look what you did to us.
I know,
was feeling so good, and then now
I forgot it was her.
The psyop of her. Okay. Meanwhile, we have a president in the United States who was in Elk Grove Village, Illinois yesterday, I believe. And, of course, people were sharing this 50 seconds or so of Joe.
Also, we've got state leadership here. Lieutenant Governor Julius here, Stratton, and Pennsylvania. I'm from Pennsylvania. The Illinois president of Don Harmon, State Senator Laura Murphy, State Rep Martin Moylan, and we got great labor leaders here too. Tim, where's Tim? There you go, Tim. Thank you. Thank you, pal. AFL-CIO State President. And Jeff Isaacson, United Brotherhood of Carpenters, and Don Finn, IBW, and Robert Reiter, R-E-I-T-E-R, You know, if I can digress for just a second, last night I was on the television. I was on the telephone. At any rate.
What was that little edit? Did you edit that at the end?
No, it was kind of in there like that. The thing people were sharing. But, yeah, I don't know, man. 3 more years? You think he's going to make it?
Well, he's a rambler. He's a rambling man, Gons.
I know.
He's fine. He's totally capable. Who needs to remember names of anybody when you're the president?
It feels like the age of nation states is over. And I think that they put Biden up there to make it be known, like, hey, this whole U.S.-led democracy thing, it's kind of every man for themselves now. It's not going to really be in the nation-state cookie-cutter form.
Yeah. Well, that is quite the analysis from the old rambling man.
My takeaway from Biden
from Biden trying to say people's names. I'm just wondering who's his handler that he didn't run through the pronunciation of these names.
He may have done so. That's the thing. He
may have. It just doesn't sound like it. But yes, okay. More rambling from the rambling man.
Got hairy legs. Got hairy legs.
Let's just go into the Flippy.
Flippy update.
Do you want fries with that?
You sound stressed today. I
am a little stressed. Well, I'll say I'm a little stressed for a couple reasons. Number one, you have to get out early.
Yeah, I know.
So we have a strict time limit on the show. And then when I came in and tried to shorten the show, for your sake, Gons, for the good of you and your family, I'm trying to keep the show short. And then Gons is, he creates his little baby before the show. He puts together some notes. And then I come in and come hacking away at him, trying to cut the fat from the show.
How dare you call it fat? And sometimes fat is needed in the winter, in the dark winter.
Hey, look, man. I'm fine keeping the fat on the show, but if you don't get to complain about the show going long, then you can't have it both ways, Gonzo.
I must. I need
also, I am pretty stressed because I had a really busy morning. Then I have the show, and I have an extremely busy evening time. I got friends who are moving. I'm on the help moving train. I got officials. It's a busy day. It's a busy day. What's your name? Reader, R-E-I-T-R? Who's Tom? Tom, where are you at, Tom?
Thanks, Tom. You rock, Tom.
Yeah.
All right. Go for it.
Here we
Flippy
go.
Update.
It's time for the Flippy Update. So if you're new to the show, Flippy is a colloquial name for the disembodied robot arms that are taking our jobs, enslaving our children, and flirting with our spouses. We use talking about Flippy as a way to explore all the new, fun, and exciting ways the robots are taking over the world, and just how there's nothing we can do about it. This is coming from MIT.edu, and the headline is a robot that finds lost items. Dun, dun, dun. A busy commuter is ready to walk out the door only to realize they've misplaced their keys and must search through piles of stuff to find them. Piles of stuff, Gots. When you're leaving to go to work or wherever you go, I don't even know where you have to go. The swim meet or the... Anyways,
what?
Your
Okay,
keys,
sure.
Your keys are they in piles of stuff?
No,
I
have a rack.
Keys.
I have a rack where keys go. I haven't lost keys in a long time.
Oh, really? See,
yeah.
I keep around my house. I just keep little piles of trash and flotsam and jetsam, and then when I get home, I throw my keys into a pile.
Oh, that's smart. That's how you use keys.
That's how I need this robot. Rapidly sifting through the clutter, they wish they could figure out which pile was hiding the keys. Researchers at MIT have created a robotic system that can do just that. The system, R-Fusion, is a robotic arm with a camera and radio frequency antenna attached to its gripper. It fuses signals from the antenna with visual input from the camera to locate and retrieve an item, even if the item is buried under a pile of and completely out of view. The R-Fusion prototype and researchers developed relies on RFID tags, which are cheap, batteryless tags that can be stuck to an item and reflect signals sent by the antenna. Because RF signals can travel through most surfaces, like the mound of dirty laundry that may be obscuring the keys, R-Fusion is able to locate a tagged item within a pile. Using machine learning, the robotic arm automatically zeroes in on the object's exact location, moves the items on top of it, grasps the object, and verifies that it picked up the right thing. The camera, antenna, robotic arm, and AI are fully integrated so R-Fusion can work in any environment without requiring special setup. While finding lost keys is helpful, R-Fusion could have many broader applications in the future, like sorting through piles to fulfill orders in a warehouse, identifying and installing components in an auto manufacturing plant, or helping an elderly individual perform daily tasks in the home. Though the current prototype isn't quite fast enough yet for these uses. Quote, the idea of being able to find items in a chaotic world is an open problem that we've been working on for a few years. Having robots that are able to search for things under a pile is a growing need in industry today. Did you know this, Gons? Did you know that one of the world's biggest problems is things in piles? We need Flippy to save the day. Right now, you can think of this as a Roomba on steroids, but in the near term, this could have a lot of applications in manufacturing and warehouse environments, said senior author Fadel Adib, associate professor in the Department of Electrical Engineering and Computer Science and director of the Signal Kinetics Group in the MIT lab. And then it goes on and on and on with, the boring tech stuff. But there you go, Gons. Flippy. He's learning. He's learning all sorts of new skills. And I find this, finding things in a pile skill, although it doesn't seem that much of an improvement, I feel like this is what's really going to be effective in the future when it comes to Flippy invading our lives. Because it's one thing to have sort of a useless little robot running around your house, maybe doing a bad job at vacuuming, maybe doing a bad job at preparing meals. But if you could get a robot who finds your keys in your, the normal piles of trash around your house, this is going to make a big difference in people's lives. But notice how in the article they go straight to the industry uses of finding things in piles of trash, being manufacturing, warehousing, and again helping the elderly. Strap a couple of these Flippy arms on the back of Nurse Grace robot, like a Dr. Octopus, Doc Ock type look there, where you had your sort of the cute little anime style robotic nurse. Just imagine that, but in like spider robot form. I think the future's going to be a beautiful nightmare.
Yeah. This assumes you own stuff, so I don't think the people that would have this robot arm in their home would be anybody that's going to be living in the smart cities. Or maybe they get used or deployed in apartment type of complexes where there's a bunch of people that live in pods, but then there's kind of a community room where people leave stuff all the time, and this thing can roll around and put it back into their little box that they have of stuff that they own. Or are supposed to be renting or whatever.
Yeah, in the Agenda 2030, the beautiful new future where we own nothing and we're happier for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody will have keys to even find. This does smell very fishy, Guns.
Well, even if they did, if they just their own stuff, it was all rented anyway, so you need a machine to sort the stuff to allocate to the different people and all they need, But I'm sure there's a happy Goldilocks zone of, I can use something like this, teach it to fold some clothes after laundry or something. I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind some robot arms.
Folding clothes. No, this one is specifically for finding junk in piles of other junk.
But you'd have to bring the junk to it, unless it has wheels.
Yeah, you could put on wheels. You could put this you just carry it around and hold it there like you're holding the leash for a dog.
I don't like where this is headed.
Using the fire hydrants.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah, well, it's not yet there, folks. It's it requires these RFID tags, but there's a whole industry based on this finding lost stuff tags. Like what is it? The Apple one, Apple. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the little tag thing.
Apple Tag, Tile. There's a whole set of products that are trying to solve this problem. So it's not that outrageous to say that you'll have RFID tags on stuff you want this robot to find. It could easily, what this robot could easily find is credit cards. Because they all already have the RFID chip. This is just a credit card sniffing machine.
The people that are on beaches with the sonar devices or whatever.
The metal detectors?
The metal detectors scanning the sand. Mm-hmm. That'll be something we remember people doing. Yeah, but our children will just see robots on the beaches.
It won't even be in beaches. It'll be in their bedroom.
Just everywhere. Everywhere.
Just roaming. Yeah, this is talk about the robot apocalypse. This robot really thrives after the bombs have dropped and the robots have taken over and civilization is in piles of rubble where cities once stood. These little searching robots will be the thing going through looking for little shiny treasures from the ruins of what was formerly human civilization.
There you go.
Nailed it.
Maybe a U.S. nuke submarine hit a giant sea robot.
Uh-huh. Welcome to Chinese News! Our top news!
DailyMail.co.uk. 11 sailors injured as U.S. nuclear attack submarine collides with an unknown object in the South China Sea amid rising tension with Beijing over Taiwan.
Yeah.
Yeah, it says here, U.S. fast attack nuclear-powered submarine struck a mystery object while submerged in international waters in the Indo-Pacific region, the U.S. Pacific Fleet said on Thursday, injuring as many as 11 sailors. In a brief statement, the Navy said the USS Connecticut remained in a stable condition and that her nuclear plant was not damaged. It did not offer a specific location, but USNI News reported that it had happened in the South China Sea. A defense official told that the site that 11 people were injured in the boat was now headed to Guam, where it was expected to arrive on Saturday. The region has been the scene of intense naval activity in recent years as China flexes its military muscles, and the U.S. conducts freedom of navigation missions to limit Beijing's influence. The accident comes as Washington expresses concern about China's increasingly belligerent stance towards the self-governing island Taiwan. And on Thursday, it emerged that U.S. Special Forces and Marines have been training troops on the South China Sea island for at least a year. In a statement, the Pacific Fleet said the Seawolf-class fast attack submarine USS Connecticut struck an unknown object on Sunday. The safety of the crew remains the Navy's top priority. There are no life-threatening injuries. The submarine remains in a safe and stable condition. It's interesting. So, was this some kind of aggressive act by China, some anonymous submarine type thing, or did they hit the Loch Ness Monster?
Well, they weren't in Scotland, so I don't think it was a Loch Ness Monster.
Or its type.
Well, going into the sort of news analysis of this is really interesting because they just call it an unknown object. They're not giving any sort of information on what it may have been. It could have been a rock. It could have been a fish. It could have been, I don't know, anything. And yet they connect the story with Taiwan and rising tensions with China. I mean, it could have been just a drunk submarine pilot hit a rock down on the ocean floor or something. And if that's what triggers World War III with China, I guess stupider things have happened. But it's the reporting of this story that is very interesting. It's almost like looking for just any little thing to connect to rising tensions with China over Taiwan.
Listen to the rest of this article here, or at least parts of it. The 353-foot boat was commissioned in 1998 and sails with a crew of 116, including 15 officers. It can carry 40 torpedoes or missiles. Officials offered no further details about its activities in the region, but its presence in such a sensitive location will spark speculation about what could have caused the accident. Earlier, the Central Intelligence Agency announced a reorganization on Thursday, putting a greater focus on China as tensions continue to rise between the world's biggest economies. The CIA's new China Mission Center was unveiled as a report claimed that U.S. Special Operations Forces and Marines have been secretly operating in Taiwan to train military forces there for the past year. Increasing tensions in the South Sea China have triggered warnings of war after sent air sorties and hostile rhetoric toward the self-governing island. CIA Director William Burns said the new unit was a result of strategic reviews that concentrated on, quote, China, technology, people, and partnerships.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. Before you started reading that, I was literally just about to say, this kind of feels like a Project Mockingbird thing. And you immediately went into, oh, well, let's take this opportunity to talk about how cool the CIA is and how the CIA has this brand new shiny division just focused on China. I mean, why is the CIA even mentioned in this article about a naval submarine?
I know it's out of nowhere. The story doesn't really make sense other than, you got a little PR for the new arm there of the CIA, and perpetuate funding, because they said it right there, economic war, right? You need funding from all over.
Yeah, I think they just wanted a reason to talk about their new CIA project. Yeah,
look what your tax money is doing, everybody.
Yeah, or, it could be placed as sort of a wink and a nod to the Chinese government. Like, we know what you got going on over there. See, we ran into it. Yeah, our submarine bumped into a rock. See, we have submarines there. I don't know. It's a weird story, but it's even weirder that it got so much play. I mean, this story was everywhere. Yeah. It's just suddenly you've got the whole internet is so concerned with this submarine.
Well, this is also part of the wars and rumors of wars. It's ongoing. Yeah. China, U.S. has been the big tensions there, but again, there are different kinds of wars already taking place. This one, the military front in terms of two militias clashing, haven't exactly gotten there, but, there's all kinds of different wars nowadays. But,
Well, speaking of war, the Space Pope Reptilian has something to say about war. Let's check in with him. It's coming from AmericaMagazine.org, the Jesuit Review. Let's see what the Jesuits have to say. The headline is Pope Francis, the world needs more vaccines and less war.
Hey, Basil, this is the transcript of his speech, so I don't think we need to read all of it.
Yeah, did you have some highlighted you want to go over?
I do. Do you want to read the editor's note, or do you want me to just run through it?
Well, yeah, let's give the editor's note.
Okay.
Speaking at the Colosseum in Rome today, it's kind of a weird place for the Pope to be reading, giving a speech. As we stand here on the grounds of the murder of Christians and the entertainment of the public.
He does say stuff like that. Like he was making the point of war and violence, and I think it was part of the whole thing.
Are you not entertained? And then the trap doors open up and the tigers come out.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking at the Colosseum in Rome today, Pope Francis addressed leaders of the world's religions and government leaders, including German Chancellor Angela Merkel, on the topic of peace and human fraternity. The international meeting was organized by the lay community of Sant'Egidio. You can read his full remarks below. So strap in, folks. We're going to read 3 hours of the Pope's remarks.
So Pope talks a little bit about the whole situation with the Colosseum. People, brothers and sisters, we proclaim this against the backdrop of the Colosseum. Long ago, this amphitheater was the site of brutal mass entertainment, fights between men or between men and beasts, spectacles of fratricide, deadly games played at the cost of human lives. Today, we too can be spectators of violence and war, of brothers killing brothers, like games we watch from a safe distance, indifferent, certain that they will never affect us. And then it talks about here, we may not be indifferent onlookers. On the contrary, we need to empathize with those who share our humanity, its aspirations, its struggles, and its frailties. We need to realize, quote, all of this affects me. It could have happened here too, even to me. Today, in a globalized society that sensationalizes suffering, yet remains incapable of sympathizing with it. We need to construct compassion, quote unquote, construct compassion. We need to listen to others, make their sufferings our own, and look into their faces. I think this is kind of interesting, first off, just to mention. A couple years ago, I was on this Next Gen panel with Tim Alberino, and I think Owen Scheuer was there. And a couple other folks. And I talked about the VR world and empathy. They're going to really push empathy, whether it be through race or, different situations, like experiencing it firsthand in the VR world to help empathize with the less fortunate type of thing. I think,
like the Mercer box.
Yes. Yeah. So I think that's kind of interesting as we move into this sort of weird technological world. And then a couple more quotes here. It goes on and on here. Let us unambiguously urge that arms be set aside and military spending reduced in order to provide for humanitarian needs, and that instruments of death be turned into instruments of life. May ours not be empty words, but insist appeals for the welfare of our brothers and sisters, opposing war and death in the name of the one who is peace and life. Fewer arms and more food, less hypocrisy and more transparency, more vaccines distributed fairly, and fewer weapons marketed indiscriminately.
That's weird. Marketed indiscriminately.
He's saying a lot here and just kind of buried in this little speech, but yeah.
Arms marketed indiscriminately mean?
When
was the last time you saw a commercial for a gun?
I don't think I have. Water guns, some super soakers.
A lot of discrimination when it comes to marketing firearms, as in it's technically not allowed on. I don't know. This is a weird thing. This is the thing with the Pope. All the speeches he gives. It's like anybody could give that speech. There's nothing. It all seems rather weak to me.
It is. I think that's the point. And I think what he is suggesting here, without saying it, with using his like euphemisms of popery, he's basically saying that we're kind of shifting the way war works in general. That's the feeling I got, that this is no longer this carnal sort of military front war. Yeah, there's an aspect of that, but this is a new arms race. No longer is it killing arms. It's like data grabbing and robots sorting your clothes. And it's just like this whole new era of machines and surveillance and data. It's kind of an information. The arms are changing. It's turning into data. It's turning into information. And he says, less hypocrisy, more transparency. Please, Vatican, Catholic Church, lead the way on less hypocrisy and more transparency. Be the mold to the rest of the world. I will welcome that, especially for our Catholic brothers and sisters out there. But then, more vaccines. Of course, it's always about the vaccines. Distributed fairly and fewer weapons marketed indiscriminately. So, more shots. That's the new kind of arms race too, this biological data. As opposed to missiles and nukes and, So I don't know. To me, this is more of a, hey, we're really entering that era now of war being different. It is a different kind of war now, different kind of arms race. He says, our times demand that we be the voice of all those believers, ordinary people, defenseless and weary of violence, so that those who have responsibility for the common good will commit themselves not only to condemn wars and terrorism, but also to create the conditions to prevent them from flaring up. And he must just mean physical violence, because spiritual violence, economic violence, there's a lot of that going on too, and he doesn't seem to address any of it, especially since the other story I had here, which you had me cut, which is fine, was basically about how one of the first, there was a priest from the French church that was caught up in part of the whole 330,000 abused kids. He was absolved. A couple hours after Pope Francis was like, "Oh, I'm very disappointed about the findings." Yeah. So,
well, to be clear, I did not cut that one. You cut that. No, I didn't. I did not cut that one.
No, it's okay. It's okay. The point being that that there's built-in hypocrisy there. So again, lead the way.
Well, look, if the Pope ever does anything, like actually does a thing to change anything,
does a thing.
That would be incredible. I mean, it would be much more interesting to report on the Pope actually doing something than him giving these boring speeches where he just says the same platitudinous nonsense over and over and then turns around and does the exact opposite. I mean, okay, great. We made a little progress in France with the child abuse issue, and then hours later they just pardoned one of the priests who was involved in it. So
hey, maybe that is the transparency. Maybe they're like, hey, look, we're just showing you how evil we are. Just here we are.
And this is the false dichotomy that shows up in his speech, which is less hypocrisy, more transparency. Well, Mr. Pope, you can be transparent and hypocritic at the same time.
Exactly.
Nothing says you can't have vaccines and kinetic wars, Mr. Pope.
Yeah. I think, and I mentioned at the top of the show how people are angry, and I think part of it is the mainstream allowing the corruption and everything else to be seen more widely to more of the public. And there's got to be an agenda behind that. And I had this whole segment here. I know you crossed them out. I'm just going to run through it real quick just to spend time. It's about money, the economic side of things. So, this is Reuters, just the headline here. Britain's NatWest pleads guilty to money laundering failings. We've often said, hey, it's the big banks that are actually laundering the most money.
Yeah.
There you go. The more exposed, these traditional sort of banks exposed. This one, not as much in terms of money, although it made me feel like, what are we doing here? And there's people earning like $9 million streaming on Twitch. But the headline from Fortune.com, Twitch data leak shows top game streamers earn big money. And we're talking, again, $8 to $9 million for playing Overwatch.
To be fair,
sure.
There was 10... Yeah. Okay. So just to be clear, they released the top 10,000 earners and what they made over 24 months. The 10,000th one made like 20 grand over 2 years, which is fine. That's great. Yeah. I mean, that's a little side hustle. I'm sure that guy has a job. Obviously, he's not living 2 years on 20 grand. And the highest one is a channel called Critical Role, which is sort of like a nerd channel, and they do all sorts of stuff. They have a bunch of different shows. It's like a whole network. It's a big operation, and they're the ones that made the 9 mil. So this isn't just some kid playing Fortnite making $9 million.
Sure,
this is like a whole company. They're an incredibly popular brand within the nerd culture thing.
Well, this is. The transparent aspect of this is proving that, and we've known this is not something that's new or anything, that all the commerce, all the retail, all that stuff has moved over to internet-based Twitch, YouTube, like that's where everything went. Mainstream media, the way we had it, is no more. It's pretty much going by the wayside here. And by releasing the financial information, the public will say, okay, yeah, this is like way more official now as everyone gets pushed into the metaverse. Amazon. Yeah. This is CBS News. Amazon has secured $670 million in tax breaks this year, Watchdog says. Again, just, CBS talking about Amazon's tax breaks, and, there's like legal reasons for it and everything they go into here. But for the general public, this really caters to the Bernie Sanders, why aren't these corporations paying taxes? And, Biden rants about that stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think everybody agrees that Amazon should be paying taxes. I don't think that that's necessarily a Bernie Sanders specific thing.
It's not even about the actual issue. It's about the sentiment of the people responding to the story.
Well, I think the thing that really, to go along with your point, the point being there's an actual number on it.
Right.
I mean, I don't remember ever seeing the actual number of how much taxes Amazon isn't paying.
Numbers trigger people.
To have an actual number on it is actually a very interesting development.
And the number they list here is $669 million in tax abatements, rebates,
so close,
and forced work development. And then since 2000, Bezos has acquired $4.1 billion in tax breaks. So it's all part of this weird. We saw the model with China, exposing some of the big billionaire tech heads. And it seems like it's moving in that direction. Maybe that's why, Bezos is stepping down. You know what I mean? There's just like stuff happening. And Bezos is like, I did my part. I don't need to be part of the throwing under the bus. I'll do that to myself by shooting myself into space.
It's kind of going along with the theme that's building here is kind of going along with the Pope's transparency and hypocrisy thing.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Okay. So what are we moving into? What kind of thing are we moving into? I'm going to change this order here just to kind of add to the point here. New York Post: Moderna founders debut on Forbes' list of 400 richest Americans.
Yeah.
Again, people are mad about the vaccine. Like, normal people are being pushed to anger. This just adds fuel to the fire. This kind of thing. Big pharma, all this kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Okay.
I mean, you talk about the new war, the war like we've been talking about, the forever war that is the war on coronavirus or just whatever they're going to vaccinate against. Again, trading in arms for vaccines. It's not about guns. It's about vaccines. Right. Vaccines are the weapons of the future war, which is the forever war now that we're out of the war on terror in Afghanistan. And, you talk about war profiteering. You think about Halliburton and Raytheon and the military-industrial complex. Again, transparently, people are now seeing, oh, my gosh, Moderna is a war profiteer.
Yes.
And the CEO or whoever he is making billions of dollars profiting off of coronavirus.
Yeah. Yeah. We got more clips on that point later on when it comes to Fauci and BARDA, and people are sharing it around. So where is everybody moving? And Basil, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing for us. I have my opinion about which it might be. But here we go. This is Yahoo News, Washington Examiner being mirrored here. George Soros Fund is trading Bitcoin. CEO reveals. Now, we've known Soros has been in Bitcoin for a while. There are rumors about it for a while. So it doesn't surprise me. But for your general normal population, that especially newer people that are like, oh, they're getting into crypto, this is, I don't know how they feel about this. Billionaire financier George Soros' investment fund is trading Bitcoin as cryptocurrencies increasingly pad traditional investment portfolios.
Wasn't he one of the Bitcoin's a scam guys?
He may have been. Yeah, there was a whole bunch of people that said that. Yeah, but he may have been one of them.
And then records showed that all these Bitcoin is a scam people are turning around and buying Bitcoin now.
Yeah, and the CEO of this, what is it called? Fitzpatrick, or what's his name? CEO Don Fitzpatrick said that I'm not sure Bitcoin is only viewed as an inflation hedge here. I think it's crossed the chasm to mainstream.
Ooh.
So it's mainstream now, and we know the banks. There's been a lot of legislation to point in that direction for a while. So you have George Soros on one side trading Bitcoin, and he's a whale. I'm sure he's manipulated price over the last year, maybe longer, however long he's been in Bitcoin. But here's the other person we know about as well. Senator Cynthia Lummis discloses a Bitcoin purchase worth up to $100,000. Why is a senator disclosing how much Bitcoin she owns?
I think she has to. I think senators have to disclose.
Do they?
That.
Do they have
Maybe
to
not.
disclose all the stuff they have? Now, listen to this, though, okay? The Congresswoman has been a longtime Bitcoin bull, touting Wyoming as a leader in developing financial institutions to work with the crypto world. She previously told CNBC that she made her first Bitcoin purchase in 2013 for $330 a token.
Ooh.
And she says she owned 5 Bitcoins as of the end of June. So, I mean, she's doing okay, especially if you bought it at $330.
Yeah.
So, I want to know, is this, so this is the 2012 Stock Act requires members of Congress to disclose the purchase and sale of individual stocks, bonds, and commodity futures within 45 days of the transaction. Does every senator follow this rule, or is this new as part of the whole CBDC rollout of like, hey, look at our leaders are telling us about their assets and how much they own and being transparent. Yeah. So everyone must be transparent too. Let the IRS know what you're doing with your money if you make more than or have more than $600 in your account.
Well, this has been a rule, like you said, for a while. I did not know that it technically applied to crypto. That must have been in some of the recent SEC categorizations of crypto that they have to disclose that now. But this thing about senators having to disclose their investments and their trades and stuff is actually very interesting. Have you seen the Nancy Pelosi copycats?
I've heard about it. Yeah.
Yeah, you can there's a whole community on TikTok and stuff where all they do is track Nancy Pelosi's investment disclosures, and they just make the exact same trades she does. And lo and behold, they're like 20% higher than the market.
Right. But some of that, it's really interesting because some of that also is like a self-fulfilling prophecy at the benefit of the Pelosi's.
I don't think there's enough of those people to move the markets, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, you're right. There's probably not enough, but the people that are doing that are people that presumably have money to throw around to trust Pelosi. I don't.
No, a lot of them are just kids. A lot of them are teenagers who are, just of investment age, and they're just savvy internet teenagers who follow Nancy Pelosi's trades and just copy her, and they're making a bunch of money.
It is interesting that we've there's a whole generation beneath us, Basil, who have been exposed to the markets, trading, all that kind of stuff, much sooner and more abundantly than when I was growing up. I mean, I always remember asking people about the stock market, people that seem to have money, because they'll be like, I invest in the stock market. And I'd be like, well, what does that mean? And a lot of people had no idea. And it took me a long time to know what was going on there too. So,
well, it's a brave new world with all this retail trading that you can do. You used to not be even able to do it yourself. You had to have a guy do it for you.
Yeah.
So with the internet and the access and everything.
So
Anywho,
I have this clip real quick to wrap up this little segment here. We're still under an hour. We're doing good on time. Celsius Network, which is a cryptocurrency company, it is centralized. It's ran by a guy named Alex Machinsky, who basically holds the patents to what is it? What's the technology? VoIP, voice over IP, the technology that's used for Zoom and Skype and all that kind of stuff. He pretty much has the patent. So he's a billionaire, but he created this crypto company called Celsius to sort of reallocate the funds. And we've talked about the redistribution of wealth. And I really think Celsius might be involved in that. I know the UN said that they like Celsius like 2 or 3 years ago. So they're kind of in the blessing of the whole new system. And somebody asked Well, I'll let the question ask itself because I have it in the clip here, but the response was kind of interesting.
What are the functions of the little guys front-running crypto for such a long time? This was the first time in history that the little guy got into a major asset class before the big guys did. How is this going to affect the market long term?
The reason there is such interest by hedge funds is because most traditional markets, if you go to the gold market or if you go into commodities or you go into equities, it's usually 80-20, meaning 80% institutional and 20% retail, right? And so you're effectively competing with smart money. Everybody knows every trade, the volumes, the spreads. So when you have a market that is dominated, 80% dominated by retail, that is a huge opportunity. And that's why you're seeing so many funds, so many traditional funds jump into crypto, because now the asset class is large enough and it's mostly retail, right? So it has all of this movement. The market is irrational sometimes, it's inefficient, it's volatile. These are all things that hedge funds and institutions love because it's easy for them to earn yield, right? It's like we were talking about before. They basically see it as free money, right? And when they see free money, they want to jump in. But when they want to jump in, they need somebody else to take the risk. And we're just forcing them to pay you for taking that risk, right? And that's really what Celsius Function is all about.
What's quite nice and refreshing is that some of these little guys are now, they're very wealthy guys.
So these little guys, the general public that got in, it's creating a whole class of people as part of this next wave of civilization. And I think that's why we're seeing the Gretas and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But the thing that's interesting there is how Alex talked about what was it? What did he say here? What was the thing he mentioned that really... Oh, the thing Celsius is doing, which is basically forcing these big hedge fund companies that are coming in and borrowing our money, the retail's money.
Right.
He's kind of forcing them to say, no, give them their fair share, which is something that happened in banking like in the 80s. Like when banks started popping up everywhere, especially in the 80s, when it became more accessible to people, you can get yields of 5, 6, 7% on the money that you held in your bank. But now it's down to whatever 0.2% or whatever it is, something ridiculous. Mm-hmm. And so we're kind of having that moment again that we had in the 80s in a sense, but in crypto. And I think it's interesting because it really is creating this new class. And then within the new class of people that are wealthy, the next wealthy class, that's where kind of another battle is taking place, where it's like, okay, what are these people going to represent? What are these people going to fund? What kind of projects are they building? Are they in line with that? I think that's why they're rolling out ESG and the UN 2030 and all these different things, because they need the young people who have money to build it. You know, it's a very interesting thing to look at. And that's why the transition is taking place. And more or less, you can track all their finances. Maybe not. If the people are smart about it, then there's ways to stay anonymous. But in general, with crypto, there's a lot of transparency going on, and so you can't really, the old method of like putting some cash under the table, laundering money, all that kind of stuff is not going to be as effective in this new digital economy. You're going to have people on board with whatever they're doing because the money has to be a little more transparent. And so they're rolling it out bare in front of everybody. And I think this is it's got eschatological undertones because eventually the Satan, 666, the 6, the Antichrist, it's all going to be very public, in my opinion. And some people have argued with me and said, oh, no one's going to know that it's the mark. No one's going to know. But it's like, I think everyone worships the beast. Satan gave him authority. Every person, nation, tongue, whatever, takes over all of it. And so I really think that it's public and celebrated, and we're moving in that direction where all of it is transparent in that way. But anyway, sorry. Didn't mean to go on a huge rant there, but I had it all kind of lined up. So there you go.
Yeah, it's very interesting. We're definitely living through a big shift.
Yeah.
And if only I had a little bird in my ear telling me all the right things to do so I can finally get my 10 mil and retire on the beach. 35.
Here's my question to you, to us, to people listening, whoever, especially though we didn't get into crypto super early, but it's been a few years now, and there's a lot of people that are in crypto or starting to get into it or whatever. So your thing is, you get your 10 mil, you're gonna run away and go hide. No more podcasts, no more.
Yeah, I can podcast from the beach.
Okay, because I feel like our duty here of being here, just in general, podcasting, talking about these issues, is to help people out there, help them get through this transition. You know what I mean? Let them know that things are going to be okay, that we realize the different tactics taking place, the many arrows that are being shot at us and everything. And we're here to sort of deal with it all. Not that we know everything, but us on the watchtower looking ahead, being like, hey, there's some pretty crazy stuff happening. It's all coming at us all at once. And we have to be here to sort of guide people. I think Dr. Heiser said that too about Middle Earth. It's becoming the norm. Everyone's moving into Middle Earth in the analogy. And so we have to be like, hey, stuff is safe here. We can chill, relax. We can talk about these issues. We can talk about the concerns. That's why we got meetups going on. We need to build the community that way. So anyway, I think our purpose here is very important in that regard. And as early investors in crypto, will we have the opportunity to facilitate some of that, and be in that economic war in a sense. You know what I mean? Like we have to be players in that.
Part of the big value is the meta analysis of it, because it's not just about, oh, Bitcoin exists, oh, cryptocurrency is a thing, but it is connecting the dots between the movements in the crypto industry with the ESG, with the Great Reset, with the Agenda 2030, with the leaks of this and that, with the plans for immunity as a service and everything as a service. It's really the value comes in the meta analysis, the large scale connecting the dots, where it's not, the crypto conversation isn't just about blockchain and cryptocurrency making money. It's really connected with the entire global shift that we're seeing. And I think it's very helpful, at least for me, to see how it's all connected and not just, what crypto was for a while, which is like, oh, it's this weird thing happening that nobody cares about. But that it's really connected with the power structures around the world.
Yeah.
Nation states and corporations,
it's a big shakeup.
All wrapped up within the same thing.
It's a big shakeup. We're probably going to live through a lot more turbulence in the next few years regarding all of it. But okay, let's get into a little bit of WACCINE stuff here.
Let's do it.
Vaccine, number one way.
Okay, so as number one way, we know vaccines, of course, nowadays really revolve all around the COVID-19 vaccine. But remember, Bill Gates didn't start out his vaccine crusade just with the COVID vaccine. And in fact, the whole world has been moving in this direction for a while. Let's check in with this article here on CNN.com. This is WHO, the WHO, recommends widespread use of world's first malaria vaccine for children. And it goes like this. In what it called a historic move, the World Health Organization said Wednesday it has recommended widespread use of the world's first and only malaria vaccine among children in sub-Saharan Africa and other regions where there are moderate to high levels of malaria transmission. The recommendation was based on results from an ongoing pilot program of vaccinations in child health clinics across Ghana, Kenya, and Malawi, according to WHO. The program, which launched in 2019, has reached over 800,000 children, demonstrated that the RTS-SAS01 vaccine, also known as Mosquirix, is safe, cost-effective, feasible to deliver, and significantly reduce deadly severe malaria by about 30%, WHO said in a news release. 30%, Gonzo.
Hey,
that
good
seems
enough.
Pretty low compared to the numbers we're sort of used to.
The new era of vaccines is here.
30%. Quote, this is a historic moment. The long-awaited malaria vaccine for children is a breakthrough for science, child health, and malaria control. 30%. WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said in the news release, quote, using this vaccine on top of existing tools to prevent malaria could save tens of thousands. The vaccine